Hi, welcome to Streeviews. Today I want to talk about giving and receiving feedback. When I first set out to make this video, I was going to talk about a couple of life experiences and what they taught me about giving and receiving feedback. But I soon realized that there's so many nuances to this subject that I couldn't do justice to them from my experiences alone. So I decided to get, feedback about this subject, and I got a lot of different perspectives on this topic. First off, let me define the scope of what I'm about to say. I'm talking about giving feedback on someone's creative expression, like if somebody wrote a blog or a poem and they posted it online, something like that. I'm not talking about getting feedback at work, appraisals, performance, things of that nature. Let me tell the first story. I wrote about a topic called self-determination theory a couple of years ago, and before I published it, I sent a draft of it to one of my college professors who taught me this subject. Now I expected some feedback, some criticism, but he sent me an email, and I remember the first sentence of that email, and it said, "Your writing needs work." He then proceeded to completely eviscerate my writing, a lot of red lines in the document that he sent me. And at the end of the email, he did say that he really appreciated the amount of thought and the thought processes and all of these other things, but the damage had been done. Let's pause the story here to talk about the first few lessons I learned from that experience. Number one, you need to know the relationship between the feedback giver and feedback receiver, and you have to keep it in mind. In this case, it was between my college professor and his former student. The second point, that context is key. He was coming from an academic perspective. He was coming from the point of view of this would be published in an academic journal or some paper or something like that. While I was coming from a personal perspective, I wanted to publish it on my blog as a personal piece. With that in mind, we discussed this over a few emails and we hashed it out. We clarified a few things amongst each other and came to an agreement on a few things. But I do remember being shaken up by that experience. For the next several months, I felt really bad about it because I had created a sense of self-identity as a writer, that I'm a writer and writing is the one thing that I'm good at. And when it all gets shattered by just 4 words, "Your writing needs work," that really changes up your mindset, and it really put me in a really bad headspace at that time. Well, I introspected and I realized that maybe I wasn't really looking for feedback. Maybe I was looking for validation. That is something that happens these days. You post something online, you wait for the validation to come through with likes or whatever other reactions and all the other things that are on social media. You write the words "feedback welcome" in the caption, but you really want encouragement and positive words and positive vibes and all these other things. You're not really looking for a critique or a criticism. And when someone actually critiques you or gives you feedback, you tend to entrench yourself further into your own thought process and you try to find evidence that supports it. Something called confirmation bias. You must have seen this phrase being thrown about a lot in the past few years. Important thing, of course, is to understand when you're getting into that mindset of confirmation bias and you need to curtail that impulse. How did I do that in my own experience? What I did was, after a few months of sulking and feeling really bad, I decided to try to do something about it, try to improve myself in some way. So I began working on my public speaking skills. I joined Toastmasters, and through joining that organization, I found a club and a group of people who were very welcoming, very encouraging, and it really helped me get out of that negative headspace into a positive, reaffirmative kind of a place. In that experience, I got a whole lot of encouragement, but I also got a whole lot of feedback, and the combination of those two things really helped out. It opened up my mind to some different avenues of expressing myself. Before, my whole self-identity was, I'm a writer, and that's what I'm good at, that's my thing. But once I explored some new things, I realized that maybe public speaking is something I need to improve and I need to work on. And there's so much more to self-identity than just being good at one thing, right? If you think about it, if I hadn't gone to Toastmasters, I would never have thought about even making these videos. Speaking of videos, I also realized that it's important to have a thick skin when you put yourself out there on the internet as a public figure, or you have to anticipate for situations where people are being especially mean or hateful. Unfortunately, that's part and parcel of the internet experience. That's the way things are. We need to do something about it as a society, but as it stands, you need to have a bit of a thick skin, especially if you're going to put yourself out there. Because again, the human mind tends to ignore if you have 1,000 good comments and one mean comment, the mind will focus on that one mean comment. That's how our brain tends to work a lot of the times. Now I'd like to talk about another story. The same thing. I put something out there and I got some feedback, but I had a completely different experience. Recently, I made a banner for social media. So something that says Shri Views and some other information at the bottom. The goal of that was to get people to check out my website, check out my YouTube channel and things of that nature. Now I posted this online with the caption, "This is my first attempt, this is version 1. Right? And now that I think about it, it does seem like I'm inviting feedback, but that's not where I was at the time. But anyway, some people got back to me, people who are in the user experience world and who are my colleagues in this user experience business. They got back to me, they chatted with me, they sent me some examples of things I could do to improve, some minor tweaks here and there, things like changing the contrast between the text and the background, changing the way I phrased things, how to align the things on the page and so on and so forth. The same impulse came back again, the same impulse of retorting, entrenching yourself further into your own decisions and trying to find things that really align with your design decisions. And again, the confirmation bias. But then I realized that I've been in this place before. What I did was I took a step back. I think I just slept over it overnight and I realized I should look at this a bit more objectively. I mean, think about it. People in the user experience world are taking time out of their day to give you feedback on something. And what is the goal of a social media banner in the end? It's that other people should be able to look at it and get the information as quickly and as effectively as possible. So once I realized that really put forth a new perspective in my mind. Like thinking about what I have created in an objective manner, I realized that yes, I could make it better. It is better to take their feedback into consideration and improve upon it. So I did, and I changed a few things here and there, changed some background colors, changed the way I phrased a few things, so on and so forth. And I sent it back to them. What's surprising here is that one person actually got back to me saying that they really appreciated how open and how receptive I was to the feedback, and that people tend to really double down and defend their designs like it's some kind of war or battle between two people. That's kind of what I heard. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but that's something that they told me, and I realized that in my mind I had done a complete 180 on something, and I really appreciated that. So all in all, these were a couple of my life experiences and two completely different approaches to receiving feedback. I feel like I really grew as a person in the interim of the first experience, which was a few years ago, to the second experience, which was just a few days back. If you've watched this video till the end, thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you liked it, share it with people if you think it's relatable. And remember, everyone wants security, many sell it, but no one has it. I'll see you next time.